The council thought humans were finished. Then Earth answered with firestorms. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a sound that echoed across the vast hall. Commander Daeho Kim walked inside, his boots clicking against the polished floor. The chamber was enormous, built to hold thousands of beings from across the galaxy. Today it felt like a tomb. High above him, sitting on their elevated platforms, the 5 elder species looked down. Their faces showed no emotion. Daeho had been to this chamber many times before, but today felt different. The air was thick with tension. He could feel it in his bones. "Human representative," spoke the Veltari Prime, its voice booming through translation devices. "We have reached a decision regarding your species." Daeho stood straight, hands clasped behind his back. He had been a soldier for 20 years before becoming a diplomat. He knew when a battle was lost before it even began. This was one of those times. The Council has determined that humanity poses a threat to galactic stability. The Prime continued. "Your expansion is too rapid. Your military grows too strong. Your weapons are too dangerous. We cannot allow this to continue." Another council member, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, leaned forward. "You have 30 standard days to surrender all military vessels. Dismantle your weapons platforms and accept council oversight of your territory. You will become a protected species under our guidance." Daeho felt his jaw tighten. Protected species. That was just a fancy way of saying slaves. Species under council protection had no rights, no freedom, no future. They existed at the mercy of their protectors, and if we refuse, Daeho asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we will take corrective action," the Prime said simply, "for the good of the galaxy." The chamber fell silent. Every species in the room knew what corrective action meant. It meant war. It meant destruction. It meant the end of humanity as a free people. Daeho looked up at the council members, meeting their eyes one by one. He saw no compassion there. No understanding. Only cold certainty that they were right and humanity was wrong. "I need to consult with my government," Daeho said carefully. "You have 30 days," the Prime repeated. "Use them wisely." Daeho turned and walked out of the chamber. His heart was pounding, but he kept his face calm. The moment the doors closed behind him, he pulled out his communication device. "This is Kim. We have a problem. A big one." Back on Earth, in the underground command center beneath Geneva, Captain Hannah Park received the message. She had been expecting bad news, but this was worse than anything she had imagined. "They want total surrender," she told the gathered officers around the table. "In 30 days. "That's impossible," said one of the younger officers. "We can't dismantle everything in 30 days even if we wanted to." "They know that," Hannah replied grimly. "This isn't really an ultimatum. It's a declaration of war with extra steps." Admiral Ji-Woo Lee, Earth's chief diplomat and Hannah's mentor, nodded slowly. She was an older woman, her hair gray but her eyes still sharp. "I've been tracking Council fleet movements for the past month. They're already gathering ships near the border. They plan to attack regardless of what we do." "Then why give us 30 days?" asked another officer. "To make themselves look reasonable," Ji-Woo answered. "When they attack, they'll tell the rest of the galaxy that they gave us a chance and we refused. It makes them the good guys in everyone else's eyes." Hannah slammed her fist on the table. "So what do we do?" "We can't beat them in a straight fight. They have 5 species worth of ships. We have one. We buy time," Ji-Woo said. "We pretend to negotiate. We act like we're considering their demands. Meanwhile, we prepare every defense we have." "It won't be enough," someone muttered. "Maybe not," Hannah admitted, "but we're not going down without a fight." Over the next few days, Earth became a hive of activity. Every shipyard went into overdrive. Factories that made civilian goods switched to military production. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Humanity had been pushed to the edge before in its history, and every time it had found a way to survive. Daeho remained at the council station, playing his part in the charade. He met with council representatives, discussed terms, asked for extensions. All the while, his intelligence network fed him information. What he learned was chilling. The council wasn't just gathering a fleet. They were gathering the largest fleet in recorded history. 500 ships, enough firepower to crack a planet. They were taking no chances with humanity. On the 10th day, Daeho received a coded message. It was from an unexpected source. A junior diplomat from the Kelthani species, one of the younger council members. The message was brief. They planned to attack on day 20, not day 30. Wanted to catch you unprepared, be ready. Some of us don't agree with this. Deho immediately sent the message to Earth. Hana received it in the middle of the night. She didn't sleep much anymore anyway. She called an emergency meeting. We have 10 days, she told her officers. Not 30. 10 days to get every ship we have ready for battle. We're already working as fast as we can, protested one of the shipyard coordinators. We can't go any faster. Then we work smarter, Hana said. Strip the luxury ships, the yachts, the private vessels. Put guns on anything that can fly. Get every retired pilot back in a cockpit. Call in every favor we have with the independent traders. If it can shoot, we need it. The work continued around the clock. Earth's orbital platforms were reinforced. Mines were laid throughout the solar system's key approach routes. Every defensive satellite was armed and ready. The Mars colonies were evacuated, their populations brought to Earth or deeper into the system. Admiral Tae-Yang Choi commanded the Sol Defense Force from the orbital station Unity. He was a veteran of the border wars, humanity's last major conflict. He had never faced anything like this before. No one had. How many ships do we have? He asked his second-in-command. 230 combat-ready vessels, another 50 that can fight if they have to. Against 500, Tae-Yang said quietly. Bad odds. We've faced bad odds before. Not like this. On day 19, Deho made his final appearance before the council. He stood in the chamber one last time and looked up at the 5 elder species. Earth's answer is no, he said simply. We will not surrender. We will not become your subjects. If you want our freedom, you'll have to take it. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species cheered. Others protested. The 5 elder species simply watched in silence. So be it, the Prime said. You have chosen your fate. Deho walked out of the chamber for the last time. His ship was already waiting, engines hot, ready to flee back to Earth. As he boarded, he looked back at the massive station one final time. I hope we know what we're doing, his pilot said nervously. We don't, Deho admitted, but we're going to do it anyway. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, racing toward Earth. Behind them, the Council fleet began to move. 500 ships, the largest armada in galactic history, all heading toward one small blue planet. Humanity's time had run out. The war was beginning, and everyone in the galaxy believed they knew how it would end. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The Council thought humans were finished. Then Earth answered with firestorms. The alarm started screaming at 0400 hours. Admiral Tae-Yang Choi was already awake. He had been staring at the tactical display for 3 hours, watching the red dots that represented the Council fleet inch closer to human space. They're here, his communications officer announced unnecessarily. Sound general quarters. Tae-Yang ordered. All ships to battle stations. Execute Defense Plan Delta 7. Throughout the solar system, humanity's fleet scrambled into position. It was a pitifully small force compared to what was coming. 280 ships, many of them old, some barely space-worthy. Against them came 500 of the galaxy's finest warships. The Council fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel just beyond the orbit of Neptune. They didn't even try to hide. Why would they? They had overwhelming superiority. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Admiral Tae-Yang watched them on his screens. 500 ships arranged in perfect formation. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Like watching a storm approach across the ocean. You could admire it even as you knew it would destroy you. They're sending a message, his communications officer said. Put it through. A Velturi commander appeared on the screen. Its face was impassive, emotionless. Human fleet. You are ordered to stand down and surrender. Comply immediately and your deaths will be swift. Resist and we will make examples of your worlds. Tae-Yang felt anger burn in his chest. Swift deaths. As if that was mercy. As if they were doing humanity a favor by killing them quickly. Tell them to go to hell, Tae-Yang said. His communications officer smiled grimly and cut the connection. Sir, they're moving, Tactical reported. Advancing on the outer defenses. The Council fleet split into 3 groups. One headed toward the defensive platforms orbiting Neptune. One moved toward Uranus. The third, the largest, began the long journey toward the inner system. Toward Earth. The Battle of Neptune lasted 18 minutes. Humanity's automated defense platforms fought hard, pouring fire into the approaching ships. They managed to damage 3 council vessels before the platforms were overwhelmed and destroyed. 18 minutes against an enemy that had been traveling the stars when humans were still learning to make fire. Neptune defenses are gone, Tactical reported. Hoist tight. Expected, Taeyang said, though it hurt to hear. Pull back the outer patrol ships. Don't waste them. We make our stand at Mars. Captain Hannah Park commanded the carrier Defiant, one of Earth's newest ships. She watched the council fleet advance and felt cold dread in her stomach. They were so many, so organized, so confident. Ma'am, Mars Command is reporting ready, her executive officer said. Good. We'll need every advantage we can get. The Mars colonies had been evacuated, but the defensive installations remained. Hundreds of missile platforms, railgun batteries, and energy weapons covered the approaches to the Red Planet. It was humanity's best chance to slow the Council fleet down. The Council reached Mars 3 days later. 3 days of watching them come, knowing what was about to happen, unable to stop it. All ships, Hannah broadcast on the fleet channel. Remember your training. Stay in formation. Cover each other. And make every shot count. The battle began badly. The Council ships opened fire from extreme range with weapons humanity barely understood. Beams of coherent energy that punched through shields like they weren't there. Missiles that could track and maneuver better than human fighters. Particle cannons that superheated armor until ships simply came apart. The Mars defenses fired back with everything they had. For a few glorious minutes, it seemed like they might actually slow the Council fleet down. Human missiles found targets. Railgun slugs punched holes in alien hulls. One Council ship, damaged by concentrated fire, exploded in a brilliant flash. Then the Council stopped playing around. They focused their fire on the defensive platforms, ignoring the human ships. One by one, the platforms died. Each explosion was like losing a piece of humanity's soul. All ships break formation and engage at will, Hannah ordered. We need to draw their fire away from the platforms. The human fleet surged forward. It was brave and desperate and ultimately futile. The Council ships were faster, tougher, and better armed. For every Council ship damaged, humanity lost 3. Captain Minseo Kang flew her fighter through the chaos, weaving between capital ships and dodging weapons fire that could vaporize her tiny craft in an instant. She was one of Earth's best pilots, but even she knew this was suicide. Red Squadron, form up on me, she called to her remaining fighters. They had started with 12. Now she had 6. We're going for that carrier on the left flank. That's suicide, Captain, one of her pilots protested. Everything today is suicide, Minseo replied. Might as well die doing some damage. Her squadron dove toward the Council carrier, missiles armed and guns blazing. They managed to get close enough to actually hit it, before the point defense system swatted them from the sky. Minseo pulled up at the last second, her fighters screaming in protest. 2 of her pilots weren't fast enough. 4 fighters left now. The Battle of Mars lasted 6 hours. When it was over, every defensive platform was destroyed. The Mars colonies, empty but still standing, were bombed from orbit until nothing remained but craters. The human fleet had been cut in half. 140 ships lost. The Council fleet had lost 12. Hannah stood on the bridge of Defiant, watching the tactical display with numb horror. Half the fleet gone just like that, and the Council was barely slowed down. Pull back to Luna, she ordered quietly. We need to regroup. What remained of humanity's fleet limped back toward Earth's moon. Behind them, the Council fleet advanced, taking their time now. They knew they had won. It was just a matter of finishing the job. On Earth, in a secret facility buried beneath the mountains of North Korea, Dr. Yuna Song worked frantically on her equations. She barely noticed when her assistant brought her food. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Doctor, you need to rest, her assistant pleaded. No time, Yuna muttered, staring at the screens. If this doesn't work, nothing else matters. Project Firestorm. She had proposed it 3 years ago and been laughed out of the room. Weaponize the sun itself. Channel solar flares. Direct stellar plasma. It was insane. Impossible, too dangerous to even attempt. Now it was humanity's only hope. The satellites are in position, her assistant reported. All 20 of them. But the calculations, I know, Yuna snapped. The timing has to be perfect. If we fire too soon, we waste our only chance. Too late, and there won't be anything left to save. Admiral Taeyang appeared on her communication screen. He looked exhausted. Dr. Song, tell me you have good news. The system is ready, Yuna said. But I need 3 more days to align everything properly. Can you give me 3 days? Tae-yang looked at something off-screen, then back at her. His face was grim. The Council fleet will reach Luna in 2 days. Earth orbit in 3. If we hold them at Luna, maybe. Maybe we can buy you the time. We have to, Yuna said. This is our only shot. Then we'll buy you your 3 days, Tae-yang promised. Or die trying. The next day, the Council fleet reached Luna. What remained of humanity's fleet moved to intercept. They were outnumbered 3-1 now. Everyone knew how this would end, but they fought anyway. Because that's what humans did. When faced with impossible odds, when staring into the abyss, when death was certain, humans fought, not because they believed they could win, but because they refused to lose without taking the enemy down with them. The Battle of Luna was humanity's last stand. Captain Min-seo led her remaining fighters in desperate attacks. Captain Hana maneuvered defiant through fire that should have destroyed them 10 times over. Admiral Tae-yang coordinated the defense with the skill of a master, making the Council pay for every meter of space. They held for 2 days. 2 days of constant battle. 2 days of ships dying and people fighting and refusing to give up. The lunar surface was scarred with weapons fire. Debris filled the space around Earth's moon. Both sides lost ships, lost people, lost hope, but humanity held. Just barely. Just long enough. On the 3rd day, as the Council fleet prepared for its final push toward Earth, Dr. Yuna Song pressed a button. High above the solar system's plane, 20 satellites hummed to life. They began to sing in frequencies that human ears couldn't hear, reaching out toward the sun with invisible fingers of electromagnetic force. The sun answered, and hell came with it. The Council thought humans were finished. Then Earth answered with firestorms deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Engineer Sang Hee-yoon watched 20 different screens at once. Each one showed data streaming from the Firestorm satellites. His hands moved across the controls, making tiny adjustments, ensuring everything stayed synchronized. Magnetic field alignment at 97%, he called out. Dr. Yuna Song stood behind him, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. That's not good enough. We need 99% or the beam will scatter. Working on it, Sang Hee replied, his fingers dancing across the keyboard. He had been an engineer for 15 years. He had built bridges, space stations, and orbital platforms. Nothing in his life had prepared him for this. They were trying to weaponize a star. On the screens, invisible lines of magnetic force reached out from each satellite, stretching toward the sun. The satellites had taken 3 years to build and deploy. Each one was positioned precisely to create a network of electromagnetic fields that could, in theory, guide and focus solar plasma. In theory. They had never actually tested it. There had been no time. The Council fleet was at Luna right now, killing what remained of humanity's defenders. This had to work. If it didn't, Earth would burn. Alignment at 98.5, Sang Hee announced. Close enough, Yuna decided. Initiate capture sequence. Sang Hee hesitated for just a moment. Once he pressed this button, there was no going back. They would either save humanity or cook half the solar system. He pressed the button. 150 million kilometers away, the sun twitched. It was a tiny movement, barely noticeable unless you were watching for it. A prominence. A loop of plasma that arced away from the sun's surface. The Firestorm satellites grabbed that plasma with their magnetic fields and pulled. We have capture, Sang Hee breathed. The plasma is following the field lines. Keep it stable, Yuna ordered. We need to prove we can control it before we try to aim it. Above them, far above the atmosphere, General Hyun-woo Nam watched the same data on his portable screen. He was in a bunker outside Seoul, coordinating what ground forces remained. Most of his soldiers were useless in a space battle, but if the Council started landing troops, he would be ready. Sir, one of his officers said, Firestorm has initiated. If this works, we have a chance, Hyun-woo finished. If it doesn't, start evacuation protocols. Get as many people underground as possible. At Luna, the battle raged on. Admiral Tae-yang's fleet was down to less than 100 ships now. They were running out of ammunition, fuel, and hope. The Council fleet had stopped even pretending this was difficult. They advanced slowly, methodically destroying every human ship they encountered. Captain Hana Park's carrier Defiant had taken 17 hits. Half her systems were offline. Her crew fought fires in 3 sections, but they kept fighting. Every minute they held was one more minute for whatever secret weapon Earth was preparing. Ma'am, we're getting a transmission from Earth Command, her communications officer said. Put it through. Admiral Tae Yang appeared on her screen. He looked like a ghost. Captain Park, I need you to pull back. Sir, if we pull back, they'll push through to Earth, I know. But we need you alive for what comes next. All ships are to fall back to Earth orbit. Stay close to the planet. Within 10,000 kilometers, Hana frowned. That close? Sir, if they bombard Earth with us that close, we'll all die. Trust me, Captain. Fall back now, and stay within that range no matter what happens. The remaining human ships broke off from the engagement and fled toward Earth. The Council fleet followed, sensing victory. They moved into Earth orbit like a pack of wolves closing in for the kill. In the mountain bunker, Sang-hee watched the Council fleet approach. The timing had to be perfect. They had one shot at this, just one. If they missed, if the calculations were wrong, if anything went wrong, it was over. Council fleet entering target zone, he announced. His voice was surprisingly steady considering his hands were shaking. Distance to target? Yuna asked. 30 million kilometers and closing. Still too far. We need them within 5 million. That's our maximum effective range. Sang-hee swallowed. 5 million kilometers. That was close. That was very close. Close enough that if something went wrong with the plasma beam, Earth itself could be caught in the blast. Dr. Song, he said carefully, are we sure about this? No, Yuna admitted. But I'm sure about what happens if we don't try. On the surface, Commander Bo-Ra Shin stood on the deck of her submarine watching the sky. She commanded one of Earth's submarine fleets, mostly useless in a space war. Her orders were to stay submerged and survive. If Earth fell, her submarines would be humanity's last remnant. But she wanted to see this. Whatever was about to happen, she wanted to watch. The sky above her was full of lights, ships engaging each other, explosions blossoming like flowers. It was beautiful and terrible, like watching the end of the world in slow motion. Council fleet at 10 million kilometers, Sang-hee reported. Stand by, Yuna said. Her hand hovered over the firing control. 7 million, 6 million, 5 million. The Council fleet moved into position around Earth. They prepared to fire. To finish this. To end humanity once and for all. Fire, Yuna whispered. Sang-hee pressed the button. The Firestorm satellites stopped holding the solar plasma back and started pushing. 20 separate magnetic fields, all working in perfect harmony, channeling and focusing and directing. The plasma beam that emerged was thin, no more than 100 meters across, but it burned at 15 million degrees. The beam crossed from the Sun to Mercury's orbit in 8 seconds. It reached Venus in 12. At 30 seconds, it punched through Earth's orbit. At 33 seconds, it touched the Council fleet. 3 ships vanished instantly. Not exploded. Not destroyed, simply ceased to exist. The plasma was so hot that it broke down matter at the atomic level. The ships were there one moment and gone the next, leaving nothing behind but a faint cloud of ionized gas. In the bunker, alarm started screaming. The beam is unstable, Sang-hee shouted. The magnetic containment is fluctuating. We're losing control. Shut it down, Yuna ordered. We proved it works. That's enough. The beam cut off. The 3 Council ships were gone. The remaining 497 ships of the Council fleet stared at the empty space where their comrades had been, trying to process what had just happened. Admiral Tae Yang didn't give them time to think. All ships broadcast the following message on all frequencies. Make sure every Council ship hears this. He took a deep breath. Council fleet. You came to Earth expecting an easy victory. You thought humans were weak. You thought we would surrender or die quietly. You were wrong. What you just witnessed was our sun. We have learned to weaponize our own star. We can turn solar plasma into a precision weapon. We can reach anywhere in the inner solar system with fire hot enough to vaporize your ships. He paused, letting that sink in. You wanted to destroy us. Instead, you've given us a reason to destroy you. Leave now. Leave our system and never come back. Or we will show you what humanity does to those who threaten our home. We will burn you. We will burn you with the fire of stars. The Council fleet held position. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly they began to withdraw. Not a full retreat, just pulling back, reassessing, trying to understand what they faced. It wasn't a victory. Not yet, but it wasn't a defeat either. Commander Dae-ho Kim, who had returned to Earth after leaving the Council station, watched the Council fleet withdraw. He stood in the command center, surrounded by exhausted officers, and allowed himself a small smile. "They're scared," he said. "They should be," replied Hannah, her image appearing on the communication screen from Defiant. "We just proved we can kill them. That changes everything." "It does," agreed Admiral Tae-yang, "but it also makes us a bigger threat. They won't stop. They'll regroup and come back with a different strategy." "Let them," Eunice said, her voice crackling over the speakers. "Now that we know Firestorm works, I can make improvements. More satellites, better targeting, longer range. Give me a month and I can protect the entire inner solar system." "Can we hold them off for a month?" someone asked. Tae-yang looked at the tactical display. The Council fleet was pulling back to the orbit of Mars. They weren't leaving, just regrouping, deciding what to do next. He looked at the depleted human fleet, less than 80 ships left. But they were alive, and they had hope. "Yes," he said firmly. "We can hold them. We have to." Deep in space, the Firestorm satellites continued their orbit, silent guardians powered by the sun itself. Earth had answered the Council's ultimatum with fire. Now the galaxy would learn what humanity was truly capable of, and it would learn to be afraid. The Council thought humans were finished. Then Earth answered with firestorms. Captain Donghyun Bae stood on the bridge of his ship, the Indomitable, and tried not to think about the name. After everything humanity had been through in the past week, Indomitable felt more like wishful thinking than truth. His carrier had taken damage in the Battle of Luna. Half his fighters were gone. His crew was exhausted, but they were alive, and that was more than many could say. "Sir, Council fleet is repositioning," his tactical officer reported. "They're spreading out, taking positions all around Earth orbit at maximum distance." "They learned their lesson," Donghyun muttered. "They're staying out of firestorm range." "Can they bombard us from that distance?" his executive officer asked. "Probably. They have longer range weapons than we do. They can sit out there and pound us until we break." The Council fleet had pulled back after the first firestorm strike, but they hadn't left. For 3 days they had been regrouping, and now they were moving again. 497 ships arranged in a sphere around Earth, all of them just beyond the 5 million kilometer range that Firestorm could reach. On Earth, Dr. Yunisong stared at her calculations with growing frustration. She had been working nonstop since the first strike, trying to extend Firestorm's range. But the physics were stubborn. The farther the plasma traveled, the more it dispersed. At 5 million kilometers, the beam was tight and focused. At 6 million, it started to spread. At 7 million, it was barely more effective than a solar flare. "We need more power," she told her team. "More satellites to tighten the magnetic fields." "We don't have more satellites," Engineer Sang-hee reminded her gently. "These 20 took 3 years to build. We can't make more in a few days." "Then we use what we have differently," Yuna snapped. She was tired, scared, and running out of options. "What if we don't spread the satellites out? What if we cluster them? Use all 20 fields to create one massive beam?" Sang-hee considered this. That would increase range. But we'd only be able to fire in one direction at a time. We'd be vulnerable everywhere else. One shot is all we need if we make it count. Lieutenant Soo-jin Han worked in the Firestorm control room, monitoring the satellites. She was young, barely 25, and had never expected to be part of something like this. She was supposed to be an astronomer, studying stars from a safe distance. Now she was helping to weaponize one. "Dr. Song," she called out, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the Council fleet. They're charging their main weapons. All of them." Yuna looked at the readings and felt ice in her stomach. "They're going to hit us all at once, from every direction. Even if we destroy one group, the others will get through." "We need to tell the fleet," Sang-hee said. Yuna shook her head. "What can the fleet do? They're already spread too thin trying to cover Earth. No, this is on us. We need to stop them before they fire. That's impossible. They're too far away and spread out in every direction. Then we make it possible." Aboard Indomitable, Dong-hyun received new orders from Admiral Tae-yang. All ships are to take defensive positions over population centers. When the bombardment begins, do what you can to intercept incoming fire. It won't be enough, but it's all we have. Wing Commander Jae Sung-oh listened to the orders and felt anger burn in his chest. He was one of Earth's best fighter pilots, a veteran of a dozen battles. He had survived encounters that should have killed him. But this wasn't a battle. This was an execution, and he was being ordered to watch. "Commander," one of his pilots said, "if we're all going to die anyway, can't we at least die fighting?" Jae Sung smiled grimly. "I like the way you think. Flight control. This is Red Wing requesting permission to launch. Negative. Red Wing. All fighters are grounded except for planetary defense. Flight control. With respect, you can ground me after I'm dead. Red Wing is launching. He cut the connection before they could respond and hit the launch button. His fighter shot out of Indomitable's bay, followed by the 11 other fighters of Red Wing Squadron. They were old ships patched together from spare parts and held together with hope. But they flew. So what's the plan, Commander? One of his pilots asked. We're going to be bait, Jae-sung said. We're going to fly out toward the Council fleet and make them think we're crazy enough to attack them. Draw their attention. Make them focus on us instead of Earth. That is crazy. Exactly. The 12 fighters streaked away from Earth, heading toward the nearest Council position. It was a group of 30 ships, all of them charging their weapons. Jae-sung knew they couldn't actually hurt those ships. Their weapons were too small, the enemy shields too strong. But that wasn't the point. Light them up, he ordered. All weapons. Make them notice us. 12 fighters opened fire on 30 capital ships. It was like throwing pebbles at a tank. But it got their attention. The Council ships pivoted to track the fighters. Point defense systems came online. Suddenly, the space around Red Wing was full of weapons fire. Break and evade, Jae-sung called. Stay alive. Make them work for it. In the Firestorm control room, Yuna watched Red Wing's attack and had an idea. Sang he. Those fighters, they're drawing the Council ships together. They're clustering to focus fire. So what? They're still too far away for us to hit. Not if we reconfigure. Look. She brought up a new calculation on the screen. If we pull all 20 satellites to one side and focus everything into a single beam, we can reach them. It'll take every bit of power we have, but we can do it. That leaves the rest of the planet exposed. The rest of the planet is already exposed. At least this way we take some of them with us. Sang-hee stared at the calculations, then nodded. I'll need 10 minutes to reposition the satellites. You have 5. While Sang-hee worked frantically to move the satellites, Jae-sung and his fighters danced with death. The Council ships were coordinating now, creating crossfire patterns that were almost impossible to evade. One of his fighters took a hit and exploded. Then another. Stay with it, Jae-sung called. Just a little longer. Longer for what? Someone asked. I have no idea. A third fighter died. Then a fourth. Jae-sung's own ship took a glancing hit that fried his shields. One more good hit and he was done. But he kept flying, kept dodging, kept the Council ship's attention focused on him and his remaining pilots. Satellites in position, Sang-hee announced. We have a firing solution. But Commander O's fighters are in the line of fire. If we shoot now, we'll hit them too. Lieutenant Soo-jin was already working her console, transmitting coordinates to Red Wing, telling them to get clear. Jae-sung saw the warning flash on his screen. A target zone. A firing solution. He understood immediately. Earth was about to shoot and he was in the way. All fighters full burn away from the Council fleet. Now. The 8 remaining fighters of Red Wing turned and ran, engines screaming at maximum power. Behind them, 30 Council ships continued to fire, not understanding what was about to happen. Fire, Yuna said. All 20 Firestorm satellites activated at once. Instead of 20 separate beams spread across the solar system, there was one. One massive column of solar plasma, focused and magnified and pushed to its absolute limit. The beam was barely 50 meters wide, but it was so bright that it lit up the entire inner solar system. The beam crossed the distance between Earth and the Council ships in 11 seconds. It struck the first ship dead center and carved through it like a blowtorch through paper. The ship exploded. The beam kept going, hitting the second ship. Then the third. Then the fourth. The Council ships tried to scatter, but they were clustered too close together. The beam swept through their formation like a scythe through wheat. Some ships managed to dodge. Most didn't. When the beam finally shut down 30 seconds later, 23 Council ships were gone. Just gone. Vaporized or broken into pieces too small to see. Jae-sung and his fighters watched from a safe distance, their sensors barely able to process what they had just witnessed. Did we just... One pilot started. We just killed 23 capital ships with a single shot, Jae-sung finished. Earth Command, this is Red Wing. Target destroyed. I mean targets, plural, very plural. In the control room, Sang-hee slumped in his chair. Every screen was red with warnings. The satellites are burning out. We pushed them too hard. Most of them are offline. How many are still working? Yuna asked. 7, maybe 8. Is that enough? I don't know. The council fleet was in chaos. They had lost 23 ships in one strike. Their formation was broken. Ships were moving erratically, commanders screaming orders, everyone trying to understand what had just happened. Admiral Tai Yang saw the opportunity and took it. All ships advance. Full attack. Hit them while they're confused. The human fleet, battered and outnumbered, charged forward. It was insane. They were still vastly outnumbered. But the council fleet wasn't ready. They were scattered, disorganized, scared, and humanity had just remembered how to fight. The council thought humans were finished. Then Earth answered with firestorms. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Jupiter. That's what they were calling it now, even though the fighting had spread across half the solar system. 3 months since humanity had proven they could weaponize their own sun. 3 months since the galaxy learned to fear Earth. President Jinna Quan stood in the reconstructed orbital station Unity, looking down at Earth through the observation window. The planet was scarred but alive. Cities had been rebuilt. Ships were being constructed. Humanity had survived. Against all odds, they had survived, Madam President, an aide said softly. The council representatives are here. Jinna took a deep breath. This was the moment everything had been building toward. Show them in. The council delegation entered the conference room. There were 12 of them now, not 5. The old guard had been removed from power, replaced by representatives who actually believed in negotiation. They looked nervous. Good. They should be nervous. Jinna did not offer them chairs. She stood at the head of the table, hands clasped behind her back, and waited for them to speak. The new prime, a younger Veltari named Kreshnal, spoke first. Madam President, we come seeking peace, peace, Jinna repeated. The word felt strange in her mouth. 3 months ago, your fleet came to Earth seeking our extinction. Now you want peace? The previous council made mistakes, Kreshnal said carefully. Grave mistakes. We have spent these past months trying to understand how we failed so badly, how a single species with primitive technology defeated the greatest fleet in galactic history. You failed because you underestimated us, Jinna said coldly. You saw a young species and assumed we were weak. You came to take our freedom and found we would rather die than surrender. That was your mistake. You lost 437 ships, another council member said. 437. Do you understand what that means? The council has never lost that many ships in any war. Ever. I understand perfectly, Jinna replied. It means you learned not to attack Earth. I hope the lesson cost enough that you never forget it. Admiral Taeyang Choi entered the room, his uniform crisp and new. He looked better than he had in months. The dark circles under his eyes had faded. He could sleep again now that Earth wasn't under immediate threat of destruction. The council has asked for a full accounting of the battle, he said, taking his place beside Jinna. I've prepared a report. He placed a data tablet on the table. You came with 500 ships. We had fewer than 300, most of them inferior to yours. You should have won easily, but you made several crucial mistakes. He activated the tablet, showing tactical displays. First, you underestimated human determination. We fought for our survival. You fought for pride. There's a difference. Second, you were arrogant. You didn't scout properly. You didn't gather intelligence. You assumed we had no surprises waiting. That was fatal. The Firestorm weapon, Kreshnal said. We need to discuss it. No, Jinna said flatly. We don't, but it's too dangerous. A weapon that can channel solar plasma across millions of kilometers. If that technology spreads, if other species develop it, the galaxy will tear itself apart. Then don't attack species desperate enough to use it, Jinna replied. We didn't develop Firestorm because we wanted to. We developed it because you gave us no choice. You came to destroy us. We found a way to destroy you first. Ambassador Ji-Woo Lee, who had been silent until now, spoke up. The council wants us to dismantle Firestorm. They're offering a treaty in exchange. Full recognition of human sovereignty, a seat on the council, trade agreements. All we have to do is destroy the weapon. Absolutely not, Jinna said immediately. Firestorm stays. It's the only thing preventing another invasion. We wouldn't invade again, Kreshnal protested. This treaty would guarantee your safety. Your word means nothing, Jinna said bluntly. The old council gave us an ultimatum. 30 days to surrender or face consequences. We know how much council promises are worth. The only thing keeping Earth safe is the knowledge that if anyone attacks us, we'll burn their fleet to ash. She walked around the table, looking each council member in the eye. Here's what's going to happen. Earth keeps Firestorm. In fact, we're building more satellites. By the end of the year, we'll have coverage throughout the inner system. By next year, the outer system too. Anyone who enters the solar system without permission will face solar fire. That's unacceptable, one of the council members said. I don't care, Jinnah replied. You attacked us. You tried to enslave us. You killed millions of our people. And now you want us to disarm? No. Never. Earth will never be helpless again. Then we have no basis for negotiation, Krishnal said stiffly. Wrong, Admiral Taeyang said. We have plenty of basis for negotiation. You just don't like our terms. Here's what we're offering. Earth gets a permanent seat on the council with full veto power. All council decisions require human approval. You don't get to make galactic policy without us anymore. Impossible, another council member sputtered. You're one species. We represent dozens. You represent dozens of species who were terrified enough of humanity to band together and try to wipe us out. Taeyang countered. And we beat you. That gives us bargaining power, Jinnah continued. Second, we want technology sharing. Full access to your ship designs, weapon systems, medical advances, everything you've been hoarding for millennia. In exchange, we'll share some of our technology. Not Firestorm, but other things. We're very good at adapting and improving. You'd be surprised what we can offer. Third, Jiwoo added, all species currently under council protection get a choice. Stay under protection or become free. We'll help any species that wants independence to defend themselves. You're trying to dismantle the council, Krishnal accused. No, Jinnah said. We're trying to fix it. The council was supposed to be a forum for cooperation. Instead, it became a tool for the old species to control the young ones. That ends now. There was a long silence. The council members looked at each other, communicating in subtle ways that humans couldn't quite read. Finally, Krishnal spoke. We need time to consider these terms. Take all the time you need, Jinnah said. But while you're considering, remember what happened when you attacked Earth. Remember the 437 ships you lost. Remember the crews that never came home. And remember that we're building more satellites every day. The longer you wait, the stronger we get. The council delegation left without another word. When they were gone, Jinnah slumped into a chair. Did I push too hard? Maybe, Jiwoo admitted. But they needed to hear it. They needed to understand that humans aren't going to roll over and accept second-class status. They'll agree, Taeyang said confidently. They have no choice. We proved we can defend ourselves. More importantly, we proved we're willing to die defending ourselves. That scares them more than the weapon ever could. Over the next 3 weeks, the council deliberated. During that time, 17 species came forward. 17 younger species currently under council protection asked Earth for help gaining independence. Jinnah accepted every request. The Free Worlds Alliance was formed 2 months later. Earth, 17 liberated species and 3 council members who had voted against the invasion. It wasn't a large alliance. Not yet, but it was growing, and it had Earth's Firestorm weapon as its ultimate defense. The council reconvened a month after that. They agreed to Earth's terms. Almost all of them. Humanity got its seat on the council with veto power. They got access to technology. They got recognition as a sovereign power that no one would dare threaten again. President Jinnah Kwan stood before the reformed council and gave her first official speech as Earth's representative. She had prepared for hours, writing and rewriting, but when the moment came, she spoke from the heart. 3 months ago, you tried to destroy us. You thought we were weak. You thought we were finished. You sent 500 ships to prove it, but humans don't break easily. We don't surrender. And we don't forgive quickly. You wanted to see what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. You found out. You found out that we're capable of anything. She paused, looking around the chamber. We don't want to be your enemies. We never did. All we wanted was to be left alone to grow and explore. You forced this war on us. You forced us to develop weapons we never wanted. You forced us to become something we didn't want to be. But now that we're here, now that we've proven ourselves, we're not going back. Earth is a power now, a real power, and we'll use that power to ensure no species ever faces what we faced. She let the words hang in the air. This is the new order. Earth stands as the guardian of the weak, the protector of the young species, The wall that stops the strong from preying on the helpless. You thought you came to Earth to end a threat. Instead, you created one. You created us. The speech echoed through the galaxy. Some species were terrified. Others were hopeful. The young species, the weak ones who had lived under council domination for centuries, heard it and felt something they hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Admiral Tae-Yang Choi stood on the bridge of Unity Station, watching the Firestorm satellites make their slow orbit around the sun. They were beautiful in a way. Humanity's shield, humanity's sword, the weapon that,